issues that come out. So the reason we're here, we're going to be practicing back bends throughout this entire immersion, or as I like to call them, heart openers. And the reason I use heart openers as a preferred title for back bends, I used to call them back bends all the time, and I actually didn't like the title heart openers, but then I switched my mind when I realized that so much of back bending has to do with this understanding of opening the front body. And to do so, there are many ways you can open the front body, but we want to create the most amount of, you've probably all saw that Instagram, of bowing the spine, of creating this push of the front body forward and lift of the upper chest upward and the bottom pelvis downward. So it's stretching and expanding while pushing forward. So it becomes a heart opening or a front body opening. But there are so many ways to do this, some of which feel great and some of which do not. And we have to figure out how to get you in your practice to experience the joy of back bending, to experience when it feels great. Now, some of you are coming in and you love back bends and you already have this kind of system down to a degree. And so you're going to thrive with experiencing some little details and postures that might help you open up, and now you finally, access a pose that maybe you never gotten before. Others of you are coming in with the feeling of discomfort in basic back bends, and my intent is to give you the skill set to unlock that the freedom of movement, of range of motion in your spine, so that you feel good. I could care less if you get some of the the postures, but if you feel good doing basic back bends and the foundational postures, and you understand in your body how to manipulate your spine so that it feels good to do these poses, that's most important, because then over time, doing postures, doing the back bend practice in that way, over time will really develop, and all the postures will unfold for you with time, and that requires strength, of course, strength building, flexibility, opening, and stuff like that. But we need to get the techniques down so that if we can get those down, then the rest can build, okay? So I want to just also thank you all for being here, and we'll have, next time we'll chat in the chat a little bit more. I want to make sure we get in. And hello, Simona, sorry I missed that, missed you in there. But if you have questions like towards the middle when we get to the peak postures, throw them up there. But you could also put in questions throughout. It's totally fine. I just may not answer it right away. But I do monitor it throughout. So those of you that are new, know that you can use that chat. If you can't access the chat, like if you're watching on my website right now, just go straight to YouTube, click the link to, click the video viewer and go to YouTube, and you can use the chat. But otherwise, it's okay not to use the chat too. We have a Facebook group that you can all be a part of. I'm sure many of you requested to be in that already, and afterwards I will make sure to accept everybody into that Facebook group. But it's on the website as well, and in that first email I sent out to you where you can join that Facebook group. In that group, we use that in order to you can post videos of your practice. I'll tell you things that you might want to consider posting. Some of them are just for celebration purposes. And as a rule of thumb, to keep it a really safe space, I don't give feedback unless you ask for it. So if you ask for feedback, I'm gonna give you feedback. Otherwise, I'm just gonna assume that we're there to celebrate and just kind of honor ourselves and our progression, and have a space where we can actually be proud of the progress that we've made, or even proud of the struggles that we're stepping into. So if you want feedback, just specify it in your messages in the on the Facebook group. Videos are great because then I can actually see your practice, and then we can all celebrate you, and we can all also offer help if you'd like some help. All right, so today we're just going to get the basic idea of bowing the spine down, and really that's moving everything forward and then opening it up. And I give the idea of like a clamshell. Clam is closed in the front, but then it opens up. When it opens up to, I guess, to eat or whatever, who knows, I'm not really a marine biologist here, but when it opens up like this is what the front of our vertebra. So if you think of your spine, we usually think of it on the back, but if you go through the chest, the spine is there too, and the front of the spine can open up like this. And as it opens up like a clamshell, these little discs, these intervertebral discs, they're soft, cushiony I guess, shock absorbers, right? They slide forward, and that's really important. That slide forward is super important because if they don't, then we're just pushing the disc down in the backside. So we need to slide the discs forward, and this was a big revelation for me when I understood that discs can move. Then I recognized that if we just fall backwards, like we just do a back bend, like by leaning back, then our back of our spine presses down and we have not slid that disc forward. And so as a result, we're putting a lot of pressure on our discs. We don't want to put pressure on the discs. They're there only for like, if issues happen, they're there to save us. Especially from shock absorption, when you land from a jump or something like this, and it's there as cushion, but those discs can get injured, and that's where pain can happen because they can bulge out, hit a nerve, and then you have discomfort. That nerve can radiate throughout all directions, and who knows where the pain is actually stemming from. It gets confusing. So what we need to do is slide these discs forward and then open the front of the spine up. We do that first with learning the 3-part cobra, which we're going to get into. Also, chair pose is a huge pose that I use a lot for learning how to move the spine forward and open up the front body. All right, without further ado, let's get going. So we'll start today on all fours, hands and knees. And on all fours, let's learn some movements of the shoulder because it's not just the spine that we have to work with, but our limbs as well. So on all fours, see if you can sink your chest down just like this. You see my elbows are still straight, so I don't want to confuse the elbows bending with the shoulder blades moving. So move the shoulder blades apart. Actually, what it really means is move your chest up towards the sky. Your shoulder blades really don't move because your hands are fixed, but you're going to feel like they're moving when you sink your chest down. You see your shoulder blades come together. You can see that pretty clearly here. I'll show you another camera angle just in case. So when you sink your chest down, shoulder blades come together. Now push them apart by pushing the ground away and shoulder blades move apart. Okay, so let's do a few of these scapula push-ups. So let's soften like so, retract the scapula, and then let's push like so. That's called protraction of the scapula. Soften and retract, push, protract. Let's do a few more. Exhale to push. Inhale, soften, shoulder blades toward each other. And exhale, push. Inhale, soften, just helping people get in, so I apologize. And exhale, push. Let's do one more. Okay, now let's do it with the spine. Okay, so instead of just moving the shoulder blades, let's, like cat and cow, but really focus on this releasing of the spinal column downwards. So think about the center of your spine relaxing towards the earth. Maybe the side angle would be best for this, okay? So relax, so both the shoulder blades and the spine now. So relax the spine downward. You see how the tailbone goes upward as a result because there's a bowing of the spine forward in this case, which is towards the ground. Now, don't go to a degree where you feel pain at all. So if you've gone too far, of course, you might feel compression in the spine. We don't want that. You just kind of want to like relax it forward. And then pull the chest through your arms a little bit to stretch the belly. So I just literally like my hands are pulling my chest forward and my knees are kind of stopping me from, leaning forward so that I stretch the abdomen. Okay, now come back slowly to neutral. We don't want to go too fast into the other direction after doing something deep like that. Okay? Now, very slowly start to relax the tailbone down. Pull the ribs in just gently. Don't go too deep into this, okay? This is obviously, we know this as cat pose. This is the opposite of bowing the spine. It's bowing it backwards, okay? Then relax back down. Bow the spine by relaxing the midsection towards the earth. Okay, now let's try to keep this and move your knees back a little bit. Press the knees isometrically. Isometrically means don't move anything. Push the knees outward And you should feel your outer hips engage when you push the knees out, like you're trying to separate the mat underneath your knees. Okay, keeping the outer hips engaged, start to move back a little bit further. You're gonna start losing that arch, but try to maintain it. And then lift up the downward facing dog. And when you do so, you can keep the knees bent at first. Press the backs of your hamstrings away from each other, like you're trying to still pull the mat apart with your feet. But think about the heels, the calves, and the hamstrings, the backs of your legs moving apart. That action of activating your outer hips will kind of help you to keep the lumbar, the low back, in an arched position. But most of you, what's going to happen, if you want to look at me for 1 second, you're probably going to, when you're doing that, you're probably dropping your chest down. Lift your armpits up and don't let your chest drop down, okay? Because that's going to force the back bend in the wrong space. We want to try to use the outer hip muscles, pressing the outer hips or the backs of the legs apart while lifting the sit bones. So we get the back bend in the more appropriate part of the spine, which is the low back. We will be opening the upper back, just not at this moment. Okay, walk the feet to the front of the yoga mat. Take an inhale and halfway lift when you get there. Feet apart, please. Exhale and bow. 2 more like that. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and bow. 1 more. Okay, now as you exhale and bow, take your hands to your outer shins. Soften your knees and press the heels out away from each other. And as you press your heels out away from each other, those outer hip muscles will awaken again. So outer hips awaken, and the back of the hamstrings and buttocks open up. Now you can start to lift the hamstrings up to the sky. Pull your buttocks up to the sky, or you can think of like the back of your pants lifting up towards the sky, but leaning forward towards your toes. Okay, backs of the legs apart. Okay, and then relax all of that. Come up to stand. See if I can move this a little bit for myself so I can see the chat in case you all have questions when it comes up. Okay, so in Tadasana. Let's start with chair pose, Utkatasana, to begin our exploration of back bending. Because chair pose is just an amazing posture to understand the curvature of the spine and the challenges that come along with it. Because chair pose is going to pull you out of the back bend and force you to learn how to activate your back muscles appropriately in order to keep a back bend. So we'll use it for our back bend purposes. Feet, let's go outer hip width apart, bend in the knees, place the hands on the thighs, and move your knees back. As you do so, press your heels apart to activate your outer hips. Now, instead of rounding the back like this, sag the spine or soften it down, okay? Then, that's usually step 1, is to relax the spine, okay? And then I'll show you how to support that by activating your muscles. But first things first is to get out of like the overactivation of the front body, to relax into it. Then we're going to activate our back muscles and our deep core muscles. So heels push apart, flip your hands so the hands turn inward like so. Okay, and with the hands turned inward, lift. Sorry, I have poison ivy on my abdomen, so I apologize if you see that. But in any case, I do want to show you this. Pull your belly in like you're coughing, right? But in and then up. So you get this lifted, expansive abdomen, okay? That's your deep core called your transverse abdominals that are cinching your body in and up. Now pull the heart up. Sit back a little bit more. And here's the hard part. As you're doing this, see, I have just my fingertips on my thighs. As you're doing this, your back muscles back here, let me see if I can just show you that. Your back muscles will start to get tired if your hips are back, okay? Because when your hips go back, it forces you now to see the elasticity there, to use your back muscles to pull the chest up away from the hips. You see that? So pull the belly in and then pull the chest up. This is going to be your back muscles, your rector spinae group.
and also your QL. Okay, lift the head. Exhale, bow, Uttanasana. That should be a nice little heating moment for you. Those of you that are new to me, that's probably really intense. Inhale, halfway lift. Step your left foot back as you exhale. Hands to the front thigh, come up and pause. Firm up your back leg nice and strong. See how my back knee is lifted? And press your front heel down. Let's come into a cactus shape with the arms and come upright with the chest, okay? So cactus shape, bending the elbows. I guess I'll show you the front view for that for a second, okay, in case you haven't done that with me before. And all we're gonna do is move the arms like this, but one way is to retract the scapula, the other way is to protract, which we did in the beginning, right? So when we retract, on the inhale, retract, shoulder blades come together. Exhale, protract, shoulder blades come apart. Inhale, retract. Exhale. Inhale, retract. Now lift your belly and your chest up, just like chair pose. Exhale. Relax. Let's do 2 more. Belly and chest up, so lift the abdomen. Exhale. 1 more, belly and chest up, shoulder blades together, retract. Exhale, hands to the ground. Step to plank, inhale. Lower, chaturanga, knees can come down if you like. First, let's warm up the back. Inhale, without lifting anything else, just lift your chest up. Exhale, soften back down. Now lift your chest and your hands up. Inhale. Shoulder blades retract, hands lift. Exhale. Reminder, shoulder blades together is retraction. Inhale, now lift your chest. Now lift your feet. Shoulder blades retract, hands. Exhale, release. Let's try that again. Inhale, lift your chest. Feet. Shoulder blades together, hands. Release. Last one. Inhale, chest, feet, shoulder blades together, hands, and release. All 4s, hands and knees. And pause here on all 4s. You're gonna take cactus arm on your left. Let me see if I can remember. Yeah, left arm into a cactus. And when you do so, you see how watch my shoulder blade moves first. So rather than take my hands like this where the shoulder blade doesn't move, can you see the difference between this and this? Okay, so one is the shoulder blade is retracting, and that's where I'm gonna get the most amount of height. The other one, I lift my hand up and my shoulder doesn't move. This is what most people do. Okay, so you could even put your hand on the ground, just on your fingertips, and move your shoulder blade like so. Then keeping it up, hand goes up. Okay, then release. Let's do the right side. So tent your right fingertips, pull your right shoulder blade towards the spine, and then come on up like so. Okay, and then try it a couple more times just to make sure that it's not just a single moment where you get the right shoulder blade to pull back and then take the hand up into your cactus-like shape. Okay, now just for the sake of understanding, relax your shoulder blade, so protract it, relax it downward, and see if you lift your hand without your shoulder blade moving, and you see you have limited range of motion, whereas if you get your shoulder blade to retract, you're gonna have maximum range of motion, okay? And come to downward facing dog. All right. So, oops, sorry, my apologies. Downward facing dog. Still having some technical issues for some people, but supposedly the site is working now. I think maybe the server was just overloaded, unfortunately. Now in your down dog, lift your armpits up away from the ground and lift your buttocks up. So lift your sit bones up towards the sky. thinking about, don't worry about if your heels are on the ground. Too many people get obsessed with that as if it's going to do anything for them. It doesn't actually do much. You could lift your heels up a little bit away from the ground in order to lift the sit bones up. We're more concerned with the lumbar, the low back, learning to strengthen than we are, stretching your calf muscles or something like this. Nothing wrong with stretching the calf muscles, but it tends to throw out the back instead of keeping it our focal point. Okay, walk the feet to the front of the mat. On the inhale, let's come to halfway lift. Exhale and bow. Bend the knees. We're going to start in our chair pose preparation again. Okay, so hands come to thighs at first, so you can use them as leverage. Notice how my shoulders are not dropped. Part of the lengthening of a back bend is learning how to lengthen both the sides and the front of the body. So get used to letting your shoulders come up. This is going to start to stretch some of the muscles like the latissimus dorsi that attaches underneath the armpit here. And we need to get that long. Now some of you are like, oh, but I got shoulder tension. This has nothing to do, relaxing a muscle will never, relaxing your trapezius will never cause more pain, okay? Especially passively shortening it is usually the most healing place for that muscle. So if you have neck pain, passive shortening is actually not bad at all. It's quite healing. So relax the shoulders up towards the ears, and now move your hips back and push with your heels out like we did. So we have outer hip muscles activating. You have your bowing of your spine starting, and you do that by relaxing the chest down rather than kind of, rounding here. So relax the chest down. Now comes the lengthening. So you come up on your fingertips and pull your belly, your abdomen upward. Okay, to do that, your abdomen pulls inward and your front rib cage, you can use your hands, just gently pull the skin of your abdomen up, the skin of your chest up until you actually start to feel, I can't do it too hard because I've got poison ivy, but you can get a little bit stronger with it. You can pull the chest up, pull the heart up, okay? Until you feel your back muscles. You can even feel them with another hand here. You can feel that your back muscles should start to engage back there, and your spine pushes forward. You might even lose the boniness of your spine because it's pushing to the front, okay? Being absorbed forward. That's what we're going for here, okay? Now come into cactus shape with the arms and bow forward. Well done, everybody. So far, doing well. Halfway lift on the inhale. And step the right foot back. Come up, hands to the front thigh. And pause here. Okay, with this, straighten or strengthen the back leg. And lift the chest. Low back is in an arched position. Lift the belly up. Okay, with the belly up, just like chair pose, lift the front body, lift the chest. So you feel there's this, not a relaxing of the abdomen, but a drawing inward. So it's not an activation of the abdomen like this, like a crunch, like we're gonna do sit-ups or something, but it's just pulling the belly in. So these are called the deep core, transverse abdominals. Now we go through our shoulder movements, starting with cactus shape, eyes forward, head neutral. Take a breath in. Exhale, shoulder blades toward each other. Sorry, shoulder blades away from one another. Inhale, shoulder blades toward each other, called retraction. Lift the belly, lift the heart. And exhale, soften. Shoulder blades come away, protraction. Inhale, retraction, lift the belly, lift the heart. Exhale, shoulder blades apart, back leg strong. Let's do a couple more. Inhale, retract. Heart up, belly up. Exhale. One more. And release, hands to the ground. Plank pose on the inhale. Knees down if you'd like, chaturanga. Okay, now we learn actually, you know what? Come to all fours for a second. Let's do one more back warm up before we get to our cobra pose. So take your cactus arm. Let's go right side, cactus arm. So I'm just gonna emphasize one more time that your right shoulder blade comes towards the spine before you take your hand up, okay? So retract and then take your hand up. Now, take your left leg to the sky and kick the heel upward so you feel your left glute muscles engage. Okay, so your left buttocks active, your right rhomboids, which is what brings your shoulder blades together, active. Think about kicking the heel to the sky, breathing, and pulling your right shoulder blade to the spine. Let's do one more breath. And release. Enjoy a full breath in. Okay, second side, right leg comes up, right heel to the sky. Left shoulder blade pulls towards the spine. Welcome, some of you are coming in now. I appreciate you being here. Sorry for all the technical difficulties and delays. I know a number of you had some issues. Nice to see you. Shoulder blade into the spine, right heel up to the sky, activating your right buttocks. So your left rhomboids now are what pulls the shoulder blade towards the spine and opens the chest muscles. So a large part of back bending is developing appropriate strength of the back body, but also appropriate release of the front body. It's not all relaxed, like I said. The transverse abdominals, those deep core muscles, need to get active. Okay, and then release. And eventually we can start to activate more front body muscles like the muscles of the superficial core, like the rectus abdominals. But most of us already have a hyperactive core. Even though it might be weak, it's just hyper-toned, or we could say it's holding tension. Holding tension like it's activated, but it's not. The reason usually we hold tension in the abdomen is because it's holding on, it doesn't trust itself, or whatever it might be. There's some emotional components there and many reasons why we'd hold tension in the abdomen. But let's say, stress of the abdomen activating and then the back muscles activating just pulls the spine into compression. And that's where we get a lot of discomfort in back bends. What we're gonna try to do is expand, lift, and lengthen. Hang on for the ride. Let's try this. Come down onto the ground. Now, if you're new to me, this is gonna be a whole different experience for you. Okay, so take your hands wide. A lot of you are professional at this, so this will be fairly easy. But know that if you're new to this, it's gonna take some practice. And I've got also an Instagram video you can watch on this, but it'll take some time, okay, before this feels good. It's called 3-part cobra. Hands out wide, fingertips. First breath on the inhale, peel the front body up away from the ground, okay? Shoulders are kind of toward each other, okay? Now, exhale, shoulders go a little down the back while the chest pushes and sags forward, okay? So you see how wide my hands are, fingertips are supporting me, but I'm sagging my rib cage downward, okay? And then come on down. There's gonna be a third breath in there. I know we're not actually moving with the breath just yet, but I wanna show you another angle as we do this, okay? So if you wanna watch the first round or the second round here, you can, okay? Step 1, inhale and peel the chest away from the ground. Shoulders are up. Step 2, shoulders go back and rib cage sags forward and down. Step 3 is press the heart forward more, then lengthen up through the chest and through the back of the neck. And then we would come on down. So for many of you, what you'll probably wind up doing is pushing like this, okay? You'll push, oh man, that is just pushing your rib cage towards your hips. Whereas you see, instead of going like this, you see that kind of sharp angle from my back to my hips. You see that? Instead of doing that, I'm going to sag it forward. You see that? And there it creates that curve. Then you can lengthen while pressing the chest forward. Okay, this is a very challenging thing to do, but if you can get this back bend, then all the other back bends will open up for you with time. So let's try it one time together. And again, it'll take you a number of rounds over the course of the, the next few practices until it clicks and it locks in, and then you go, oh, this is how it works. Okay, so step 1, inhale, lift. Step 2, soften, relax the chest forward. Inhale, press or pull the heart through your arms. Pull your chest forward. Lengthen the belly up through the skull, up through the back of the neck. Exhale, release. Also, you should kind of take note. I know some of you have never practiced with me before. Some of the alignment is definitely different. You see how my feet are as wide as the yoga mat? Okay, that's really important. Feet too close together is going to minimize or not allow your pelvis to move as much, which then forces the back to have more mobility. Whereas if we take the feet a little wider, it's gonna allow the pelvis to move more and take some of the stress off the low back, okay? We'll come back to that. Let's come to all fours, hands and knees. Tuck your toes. With that same arc of the low back, come downward facing dog. Full breath in. Full breath out. And let's take your right leg to the sky on the inhale. Bend your knee, open up your hip. Let the right waistline stretch, lengthen through the right belly. Even bow your chest to the right, so go underneath your right armpit a little bit. Straighten the right leg on the inhale. Step right foot forward. Rise, high lunge. Open warrior 2. All right, let's lengthen the right waistline. There's a very big difference. Let me just make sure I'm on the right camera angle. I want to go to this one for you all. Okay, so there's a very big difference between, watch the difference here, doing a lean back like this, okay, where most people do a reverse warrior where they lean the ribs back and then push the ribs into each other. That's the same thing most people do with back bends. They lean back and then push the spinal column into itself. Whereas if you take your left hand to your ribs here and press your rib cage forward first, so the spine now on the side can do that movement forward, that clamshell opening now on the side of the body, like this, and then pull your belly in and up, stretching the right oblique muscles here. Now take your right arm up and really pull your shoulder up. If you take your left hand to your waistline here, and now you feel, if you pull your shoulder up, you're gonna feel the stretch underneath your left hand. You can feel that the skin moves, right? So your shoulder moving really lengthens, allows the rib cage to pick up off the pelvis. You can feel that fascially from the skin, from the fascia moving underneath, that there's an actual connection here. So shoulder goes up, pull the belly, pull the rib cage up. Now you can just kind of rest the left hand, but the rib cage is still pressing forward. Yes, of course, this hand is gonna go backwards, but the rib cage pushing to the front. Okay, let's release slowly, hands to the ground. Step to downward facing dog. Full breath in. Full breath out. And of course, over the course of time, we'll move more. I just want to make sure we get all the foundations in for everybody that hasn't been practicing with me. Make sure we're all on the same page. Left leg to the sky. Bend the knee and open up the hip. It's these foundations of understanding how to move and shift our body weight and lengthen certain areas of the body using particular muscles that is really going to open up our back bends. On the inhale, the left leg comes straight. Step left foot forward. High lunge, rise, inhale. Open up warrior 2. And again, we're going to work on reverse warrior here, not by falling or leaning back and compressing the spine like this, but by pressing, you see it, and it's not my shoulders, it's not like one of these things where I move my shoulders like this, but it's the midsection, you see right here where the ribs are pressing forward, and you can use your hand to pull your left ribs up away from your left hip. Okay, now the left arm it's not casual. It's really reaching up, lengthening the whole left side of the body, the skin, the abdomen, the obliques here. Okay, that ability to stretch the skin, really, I'm not saying the skin, it's not the skin that's stretching, but you can feel the skin stretching. The abdominals are stretching underneath that skin. The fascia is stretching underneath that. Allowing for that length is what's going to decompress the spine because it takes the rib cage away from the pelvis, and that's what we really want. We want that movement of the upper body away from the lower body. That's where we're going to feel the most amount of freedom in the back, okay? And release. Step to all fours, hands and knees. Okay. Let's come back to that right leg to the sky, left arm into a cactus shape, and notice how I move the shoulder blade first. So shoulder blade, hand. Now, instead of the cactus, reach back and see if you can grab your foot, okay? Soften. And now start to kick your foot back into your hand and gently up to the sky. This is not a huge pose for right now. You see that I'm grabbing the pinky side of the foot, so I'm not inward rotation, I'm outward rotation. So how do you do that? You grab your foot normally, and then you walk your hand over so that your thumb is facing up like the toes. And then use your foot to kick back. And watch me, you see how I lean my hips back as I kick back? Then pull my heart forward. So hips are trying to pull back, chest is trying to pull forward. Kick back and up. Your left shoulder blade, retract it. Okay, and then slow to release. It's a very, I call it a very frumpy pose because it doesn't feel quite expansive, but it can really help us to understand the mechanics of back bends. Okay, so other side, left leg goes up. Don't forget about the right shoulder blade. So right shoulder blade pulls back. Okay, once you get that pull back of the right shoulder blade, now reach back and reach for your back foot. Okay, so right hand grabs the left pinky toe side of the foot, and then kick your left knee up, but your foot back. Your left foot kicks back, your knee kicks up. And again, your hips can lean back a little bit while your chest pulls forward, like you're kind of snaking your heart through your shoulders here. Okay, and release. All fours, be slow and mindful when you come out of those deep back bends. Lean forward, lower down, and let's work on our Bhujangasana Cobra pose again. So fingers out wide and hands not so far forward, like a little bit back more than you think. Your thumbs are really a strong base of support, so be there. Now on the inhale, feet wide again, sorry, feet wide. Inhale, peel the front body up. Exhale, soften, sag the chest forward and down. Literally sag your body down, melt, relax. Okay, now pressing the heart forward or pulling it forward, lift your belly like we did in chair pose. Pull your belly in and up through the top of the head. Okay, and then release. Come to all fours, hands and knees. And let's take our left foot outside of the left hand. Back knee is down. Right hand over to the right, quite significantly. Left hand to the knee. So you're in this what's twisted monkey preparation. You can now move your rib cage. Watch the difference here from this to this. You see how I'm moving the rib cage forward. See if you can bend your back knee and reach for your foot. If you can't grab the foot, it's no worries. Just grab a strap, wrap it around your foot, and hold on to the strap. Now what we want to do is something called a facilitated stretch to open up the quads. That means you're going to activate the hips you're going to activate the muscles that are stretching. First, your hip flexors are stretching. You can probably feel that because your hips are sagging down. I'd like your rib cage to sag down, but your hips to lift up. So rib cage relaxes, but pull your two knees toward each other until your hips lift a little bit. That's going to give you a little bit of elasticity or play in the back knee. Okay, so if your hips come up, your foot can come a little bit closer, okay, because you're giving some slack. Now gently press, gently, like 5% of your effort, into your hand with your foot, Okay, so your foot presses back into your hand. And can you sag or relax your chest without relaxing your hips? This is the hardest thing with back bends, especially with the shoulders, both the shoulders and the hips. Keeping the hips and shoulders active while the midsection softens and melts. Okay, and then we can slowly release the thigh stretch. Come to all fours. Now, if that was emotionally very challenging for you, like you started to feel, take your right foot forward outside the hand, you started to feel a lot of maybe anger, frustration, sadness, or whatever that comes up, this is normal. They're stretching the muscles that tend to ignite when you're in a state of fear, like moving into or being in fight or flight. So there can be a lot wrapped up in stretching the muscles that react when we are in those emotional states or even reactive states. Okay, so pull your knees toward each other, hips stay lifted. And is it possible to like relax the chest? Okay, so as you relax the chest, your hips will want to sag down. Don't let them, lift them up. And then see if you can reach back with your right hand. Notice how I pulled my right shoulder back and then reach for my foot. Okay, keep the hips lifted, not falling down towards the ground. And to do that, you pull your knees toward each other and your hips stay lifted. That's a facilitated stretch for the inner thighs, the back hip flexors. And then if you kick your foot back into your hand, that's a facilitated stretch for your quads. So I guess let's go a little bit deeper into what a facilitated stretch is. There's something called the Golgi tendon organ, which governs the amount of tension on a muscle and communicates with the brain about that tension. So stretching a muscle creates tension. Engaging a muscle creates tension. Stretching and engaging at the same time, so engaging a lengthened muscle is the most tension you can put on a muscle. So the Golgi tendon organ receives that information that there's a lot of tension on the muscle, tells the brain sends signals back to relax the tension. And for some crazy phenomenon, that will actually give you a lot of elasticity, allow you to go deeper without compromising the health of the muscle, okay? Because you're learning how to activate a muscle through its lengthening position, so you increase the integrity of that muscle, the ability for it to engage regardless of its length. Okay, release the thigh stretch. Come on out, all fours. Let's take a breath in. Downward facing dog, hips up and back. Let's take a full breath in together. Okay, walk the feet to the front of the yoga mat. And exhale to bow. Hands to the hips, arch the back, and rise all the way up. All right, doing really well, everybody. If you have questions, you can certainly put them in the chat. Again, just working on the foundations, really driving these home today so that we can layer and build as we go along throughout each practice. Okay, bending the knees, hands to the thighs, come to chair pose, move the knees and hips back. See how when I move the knees and hips back, I form the arch in the low back. Now, lengthen by pulling the belly in and up, in and up. Cactus arms, shoulder blades together. Gaze lifted. Now, see if with the shoulder blades together, you can reach the arms to the sky. Palms facing straight forward for this one. Lift the shoulders up, get long in the sides of the body. Keep the hips back, keeping your arch position. Keep the low spine forward, forward, forward. Okay, and bow, release. Halfway lift on the inhale. Step the left foot back. Place the knee on the ground. Place the hands on the front thigh. My suggestion, first move your hips forward, but now really think about see the rib cage here? Move the rib cage forward, okay? Then you can lean forward. Now, pull your back knee forward towards the front foot until you feel like your hips are actually, instead of falling down, they're lifting up. So the back knee pulls forward and the hips lift up. Keep the rib cage, press it forward, and you should start to feel a stretch along the left side if your left rib cage is in fact forward. Okay, keeping your hips lifted, but pulling your ribs forward. Now take cactus shape in your arms. Shoulder blades retract. Heart presses forward. Now lift the heart center up, up, up to the sky. Okay, start to look up. Press your rib cage forward, forward, forward. Sag your chest. Keep your hips lifted. Chest forward. Shoulder blades towards each other. Okay, now lean your chest forward to release. Step forward, halfway lift. See how whenever I come to a halfway lift, my back and my pelvis is lifting, so I don't come into the halfway lift like this. I'm trying to use my back muscles, okay? That tells the spine which direction we're going. Forward. Step the right foot back. Okay. Place the hands on the front thigh. Again, instead of sagging downward like this and just sinking, pull your back knee towards the front foot and your hips will lift. There will be a buoyancy to it. Now, the rib cage, on the other hand, will tend to do this. See if you can move it forward. Bow it forward. Now, keeping your chest forward, take cactus shape. Pick your abdomen. You might need your hands for it. Pick your abdomen up, and as soon as you do that, you start leaning back, so forward with your abdomen up. Belly and chest up. Forward. Back knee still pulling forward. Belly and chest up. Right rib cage forward. Look up. Lean forward to release. Lean, 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 lean. Okay. Come to all fours, hands and knees. Take your feet, tuck your toes. So here's what we're gonna do. A modified camel pose. With toes tucked, take your feet wider than your hips. So that when you sit back, you can access your heel with your left hand. You're gonna retract your right shoulder. So you see how my thumb is now facing out. So just palm on heel, on top of the heel. The left shoulder retracts. Now, right rib cage here is gonna push forward and up. You can take your right hand behind your head, or you can use it to pick up your right ribs. You see how my low back, see if I can move my shirt so you can see it, is in an arched position versus in a rounded position or even a straight position. See, the rib cage is forward, forward, forward. Now, once you get that position here, you can push with your left shoulder back, you can push down into your left hand and press right rib cage up to the sky. Look down at your left foot a little bit and press your right rib cage up to the sky. Now, without changing anything, slowly move your hips back. Without changing anything, keep your chest lifted, move your hips back, move your hips back, move your hips back, and sit right back down onto your feet. Switch the sides. Maybe another angle will be helpful. Let's see, let's go from the front. Okay. Again, left ribs, forward, forward, forward. Right shoulder, retract, pull it back. Okay. Forward, 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 sag the chest forward. Now push down into your right hand, right shoulder blade pulls towards the spine, left ribs up to the sky. I can feel my lovely poison ivy stretching. Maybe not the best thing for it. Maybe it is, who knows, we'll see. Press the left heart to the sky. All right, slowly move the hips back. Voila. And release. All right, untuck your toes, point your feet, and sit back onto your heels. And let's just kind of connect to the shoulders again here. Come onto your fingertips. Shoulders are going to pull up and back. Once you have that, lift the head up. Turn the palms out. This is called external rotation of the arms. And then what that does is it pulls the collarbones wide, lengthening the pectoral muscles. Okay. So I think we are at a good point for today. We're going to do one more Cobra just to kind of settle into that experience of Bhujangasana. Eventually we're going to move to King Cobra, and I'll prep you more for that another day. But really, Cobra is the foundation of bowing the spine, of moving it forward and lifting it up. Okay, we've done a little bit in some other postures. If you can get this practice down and feeling good in it, then the rest of the practices are gonna really open up for you. But it takes some attentiveness and relearning of how to move, because I can say one thing and have you do it, but until it really settles into your, let me say this, until it becomes your movement and not my verbal cue, not just something that I'm saying, but it becomes something that you are doing. When that happens, that's where the opening or the freedom comes. And it doesn't just happen in one class, but what we want to do here is give you enough of that experience. And I also gave you some other, retraction of the shoulder blades. We talked about outer hip muscles. We're going to layer those actions throughout the entire immersion. So you're going to learn how to use your outer hips for certain poses, your buttocks for other poses. You're going to learn how to use your rhomboids, your shoulders for other poses. And we're going to layer those through different classes so that you have these actions are not just one and done like we do them in one class, but we're going to learn how they apply to the myriad of yoga postures, because it is your body that is going into these poses. It's not like a bunch of different collector's items, right? It's your body, it's one thing. And once you know how to do this one thing, or these one actions, whether it's the shoulder blades or it's the hips or it's the core or whatever. Once you know that one thing, you can carry it through to every posture, and it unlocks that in every pose, okay? So we need to just get that one technique down of melting, relaxing, lifting and lengthening. Those are really two techniques. Melting and relaxing is one, lifting and lengthening is another, okay? So a lot thrown at you in this class in very simple postures, more or less, but if you can get them down here, we're going to really layer them on and develop as we go along. So last Cobra together. If you do want, you can post in the chat if you have any questions. I can go over something. So feet wide, hands wide, fingertips. Usually when I do this, first things, you can actually, as you're coming up, I guess I do this part of the lifting of the front body. So you can actually wiggle your rib cage, lift your chest a little bit, wiggle your rib cage away from your hips so your belly's already stretching. So your rib cage further forward and your pelvis stays where it is. Okay, keep your hips, your pelvis reaching back. Okay, now lift your front body up and think about peeling it away from the ground. Then shoulders can go back, but the heart presses forward, sags down, okay? Once you have that sagging down, then belly up, back of the neck up, throat back, gaze up. And then release without changing the shape. You just simply bend the elbows more and come right to the ground. Let's do two more. Inhale, front body lengthens. Exhale, soften. Press the heart forward, pull it through, lengthen. Exhale. Last one. Exhale, soften. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, release. Come to all fours, hands and knees. Tuck the toes, exhale into down dog. Please take your right shin across the yoga mat. Any amount, don't push the depth of it today, okay? Just, now what you can do is move your hips back. You see how I still have an arch in the low back? It's kind of a good thing for right now. And you can stay lifted like this so your spine can kind of come back into its neutral state. Or I suggest not rounding so much, but you can place your forearms on blocks. Want to keep the spine in an arched position, a gentle arched position, so that we don't jerk it back into a rounded position. If we do that, then the discs that I talked about in the beginning will be caught forward, and then we could also injure the disc. So if you see me here, it's not so rounded of a position. It's more of just like a flat back, if you will. So I'm just going to allow the vertebra. Maybe that's a good angle. I don't know. That's the best angle. I'm off to the left with my forearms. And why is so that I have more access to stretching my hips rather than stretching my spine or my back muscles. If you want to place your forehead on a block or something like this, it's okay. And as you're in this posture for a little while, eventually the spine or the disc will start to come back more towards neutral. Big mistake that most people make with back bends is they try to stretch their back muscles right away. They round their spine after they've engaged them. Now, muscularly, that makes sense. If you just engaged a muscle, you want to stretch it. It doesn't work in the spine, though, because of the discs. We don't have discs really like, throughout our spine, throughout our rest of our body. We do have some cushiony shock absorption, but not like the intervertebral disc. Come back to down dog. I'll continue that statement in a second. Take your left shin across the mat. Just don't push it. Just wherever it goes is great. And off to the right side. So what I'm saying is, while it may feel good muscularly to go, from a back bend where your back muscles are engaged to stretch the back muscles, it's not good on the discs. It could be injurious immediately or over time, but obviously the immediate injury is something to definitely avoid. So you just want to kind of get in positions after back bends. Those of you that are yoga teachers, you want to be more neutralized positions. Like sometimes down dog is good for those that have flexible hamstrings, but for people with tight hamstrings, down dog might even be not so good. So it depends on you and your body, or your students and their bodies. Fine pigeon is fairly good if you stay on your forearms and stay lifted. It's one of the better forward folds after back bends because it's not really a forward fold of the spine. It's a forward fold of the hips more often than not. But if someone is really rounded in the back, if that is the case, then what you would want to do is place them on forearms on blocks. And if that's you, of course, place your forearms on blocks. If it's a student of yours, just hand them to them and just say, hey, place your forearms on the blocks. Okay, come on out. Down dog. Come forward, plank pose, inhale. Lower all the way to the ground and roll onto your back. I say we avoid happy baby for today, since we were, and most, unless you have a really long cool down to get your spine back in its neutral state, I don't suggest happy baby after, getting into your back bends. For some of you, if the back bends weren't that deep, they didn't feel like they're deep for you, then go for it. But I suggest taking this constructive rest after back bends is quite nice, where your feet are wide, your knees are knocked in. I even like to let the arms come overhead. This is a way of taking Shavasana. But if you prefer, you can stretch the legs out and palms face up, more traditional version of Shavasana for you, whichever serves you best. You don't want to flatten the back on the ground. Let it be lifted slightly. Begin to settle in, so relaxing your breath. If you're doing Ujjayi, release the sound of your breath. And now start to feel the sensations of your body. Feel what you have created. Bring your breath back to your awareness. Awaken fingers and toes. Stretch the arms. And roll to your side as you're ready. Come up to a seated position. And place the hands to the heart center. And in honor of this global community that we're all connected to through this practice and everybody that has signed up for this particular immersion, we take a moment to bow in towards each other. It's a pleasure to be connected to you all and to share this amazing practice. And so in this bow, we're also bowing in towards everyone that has passed this practice down to us and through us. A big thanks to anybody that has sacrificed their time and energy or anything else in order to bring us this experience that we get to share together. Thank you all so much. It's an absolute honor. Namaste. All right, everybody. If you have questions, throw them up in the chat so I can just take a moment to share or offer. I apologize again for the technical difficulties. I appreciate your understanding, and I will make sure that we're all sorted out, and whatever is going on, we'll fix that. Myra has one question. She says, she didn't quite understand, did I say do or do not recommend Happy Baby after back bending? And what about half Happy Baby? Great question. I do not recommend Happy Baby. If you're going to do, I would say half Happy Baby is a better option because that one leg lengthened will maybe help you not go in such a deep of a rounding of the spine. It depends on your hips and how much flexibility you have. If half Happy Baby doesn't round your low back, then totally cool. It also depends on how long you've been doing, so after back bends, how much time you spent before you did half Happy Baby. So like, if you stood in Tadasana for 5-10 minutes and then did like pigeon and things like where you could, we definitely didn't do a long cool down. So if you did a long cool down where your spine was neutral for a while, then your discs will naturally come back into place and then you can start forward folding again. But most of us don't have 15 minutes or 20 minutes to cool down after back bends before we do Shavasana, right? So in that case, it's best to use Shavasana and a pose like constrictive rest, where you're, even if you have a bolster underneath your knees, where your low back is in its natural curved position and you're not rounding it, then the disc can settle, and then when you come out of the pose, out of Shavasana, you'll feel pretty neutralized and great. Okay, so let me just check. We've got a number of them coming in. Thank you, Ellen, nice to see you. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Dionysia, is that how I say it? Appreciate you practicing. Hey, Annie, thank you so very much. I'm happy you enjoyed it. Stuart, what's up? Namaste. Thank you so very much for being here. Rethink your post back then cool down sequence. Yeah, pigeon is a safe one. If you want to, eventually, I know a lot of people like to forward folds after. Better to start with, okay, so pigeon first. So you give yourself time in your natural curve. Then maybe doing, like, if you really want to get into like forward folds, the next one I would start with is a single leg forward fold, like, like what do you call it? Parsvottanasana, the bowing forward with one leg forward, because at least you're using gravity to lengthen the spine versus like Paschimottanasana, not the best one, okay? Like seated forward fold, not good until after you've lengthened your spine and let the disc come back. Tadasana, great, things where your spine is neutral. All right, thank you, Tara, nice to have you here. Lara, nice to see you, happy to have you again. Chakalakart, thank you. Merci. Emily, hey, wow, thank you so much for a very interesting class. I already feel a difference, a lot of new, very useful tips. Awesome, thanks, Emily. I appreciate that, I'm glad to hear it. Lenore says, in Cobra, the arms outside are working quite a bit to hold you up, question mark. The triceps, because they're what's stopping you from falling, but you're actually relaxing the pectoral muscles, you're relaxing the serratus, and you're kind of falling into your flexibility a little bit here. Most of us won't allow it fully, but and I wouldn't say you're supposed to just totally fall into it, but for most people, it's quite a relaxing, you have to let go of a lot of tension for the serratus and the pectoral muscles to relax enough that your spine can bow forward. Then you can start to eventually almost pull the ground down and pull your chest up and pull your body through like you're doing a row, like you pull your chest forward. So it's a little bit complicated, but yeah, the triceps are gonna work quite hard to keep you lifted there. So yoga for yoga. Thank you, Matt, for the tips. So helpful. Thanks a million. Thank you, Anna. And thanks for your name too, Anna. Myra says, awesome, thank you. Thank you, Myra. I think it's Joanna. Is it Joanna? I assume, based on my guess, that's really not based on anything. I always get cramp in my back of my rib cage. So likely that's just your muscles working hard and they're weak. Muscle cramps typically happen when, well, there's a few reasons. It might be too shortened, perhaps, could be the issue, and then you engage it. So there might be that, but usually because the muscle is weak, if you try to engage it, when a muscle is weak and you try to engage it, it tends to cramp up because it just doesn't know how to activate and release yet. So it just tenses up, like, to do its best. You know, over time, when you develop strength, that should work itself out and be okay. You know, of course, there's also, you must have enough water and all that stuff in your system. But if it's in one area, it's most likely just that that muscle area is weak. And also, if just to throw it out there, if it's not that it's weak, maybe it's overused, then try to activate the muscles above and below that area. And think like wherever that cramp is, go above it and activate there. Go below it and activate there, and that should give relief to that one area that you're feeling. Because it could be just one muscle that is really strong and it's overworking, and the other little muscles along the sides are not working. So Corinna, I'm not sure where you're from, sorry. Thank you for this first amazing class. I look forward to my progression in the back bends. I usually try to avoid back bends. Well, thank you for your courage and stepping in. I appreciate that. You're thinking of changing your name here just for me. Thank you. Meg, thank you for the class. It helped me with my shoulder and neck pain, actually. Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that, Meg. Glad to hear it. Really glad to hear it. Like in reverse warrior camel. Okay. Yeah. Sandra, thank you very much as well. Shushma, great class. Useful tips. Shoulders and necks feeling relaxed now. All right. Thank you so very much, Shushma. All right, everybody. Nice to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you, your patience with the technical difficulties, and those of you that didn't make it in but are watching this afterwards, sorry for whatever is happening. I'll have to examine and see what went on. There's about 3 or 4 technical difficulties all at once, so I'll start assessing now and see what's going on. All right, so look forward to practicing with you all on Thursday, same time, same place. Well, you get to choose what place. See you then. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.